It's Friday, January 30th, 2026, and we have a winter storm to talk about. In just about 24 hours, we're going to get some snow moving into the southeast through portions of eastern Tennessee, northern Georgia, the Carolinas, southeastern Kentucky, West Virginia, and Virginia, and this snow could potentially move up the coast. We've been seeing a trend a little bit farther out east, but there still is a chance for some coastal flooding. We're going to have a full moon. We're going to have a lot of surge into the coast, potentially some tropical storm to hurricane force winds. Snowfall-wise, though, I think the biggest impacts are definitely going to be through portions of Virginia and the Carolinas and maybe a little bit into the surrounding states, so we need to talk about that. We could easily see some snowfall totals out here that we haven't seen in over 10 years, and potentially we could see some record-breaking snowfall totals. I also want to talk about what's ahead because we have a very cold pattern into the east. I think we have a very potentially snowy pattern into the east as well as we move through the first half of February. Our 10-day temperature anomalies continue to look cold out east and warm out west. I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and if you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And of course, if you like the video, like the video. Let's get into the weather updates. Starting off with our weekend winter storm that we could begin seeing impacts from in as soon as 24 hours, if not less. Here we go as we get into Friday night. We're going to see some snow beginning to fall potentially across portions of eastern Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky there, southern West Virginia, maybe western Virginia. You can see the Appalachians here. And then as we get into Saturday morning, and especially as we get into Saturday afternoon, that snow is intensifying. We could even get some snow down into Atlanta. We're talking north and eastern Georgia, of course, South Carolina, North Carolina. And this system's going to be deepening. We're going to have some surge coming into the coast. We could have some strong winds along the coast too, and maybe even 20 to 30 mile per hour plus gusts inland in South Carolina and North Carolina. Traveling is going to be difficult. Now we get into Saturday night into Sunday. We're potentially still snowing out here in the Carolinas through portions of Virginia, maybe even eastern Georgia, but now we're getting some surge moving into the mid-Atlantic coast, and then eventually as we push through Sunday, we're going to get that surge and those winds moving up into New England. We could still see some serious impacts out along eastern Massachusetts and the Cape. We're going to have to watch this closely. The models have been shifting a little bit east, so again, the real area we're watching is definitely down here in the Carolina region. Now, taking a look at the latest HRRR for timing, we could see some snow beginning to move into Appalachia, potentially as soon as tomorrow early in the evening. We're talking 5 to 6 p.m. I don't expect major snow really falling anywhere until you could see here maybe 8 or 9 p.m. And then impacts into central and eastern North Carolina could start as early as Saturday morning. As you see right here, the storm begins to intensify. We're talking 6 to 8 a.m. in the morning on Saturday. And now we're really snowing everywhere, potentially from central Georgia up through southern Virginia. This is at around 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday. Getting into the latest expected snow totals. Now, there's a little time for this to change, but we're only, like I said, about 24 hours out. So there's some confidence in these totals, what we're seeing here. But of course, there's always a low end, an expected, and a high end. Someone could see a dry slot move in here. I think we could see some dry air move into this region just east of Charlotte. We're talking the Research Triangle down there through potentially Rockingham and Fayetteville, but also it could be a little bit farther west. Maybe it is through Greensboro, Winston-Salem, down there through Charlotte. So we're gonna have to watch. It's really difficult to see where that dry air sets up. Now, if you get a little bit of that dry air in, it's not gonna mean you don't get any snow, but instead of getting 9 inches, maybe you get 4 or 5 inches. But anyways, here's the expected totals. We're expecting 8 inches into Charlotte. You go up to Greensboro, we're talking about 7, 8 inches. You get up towards the Research Triangle, 6 to 8 inches. Now you push out towards the North Carolina coast, especially central to northern North Carolina coast. We could be pushing 9 to 14 inches expected. Now on the high end, you could push these totals way up. Greenville, South Carolina, 6 inches expected. Columbia, about 6 inches expected. Augusta, 3 inches expected, potentially 6 on the high end. We're seeing some pretty good totals here, including up through Appalachia. Boone, I think 8 plus is possible. Asheville, we could be talking 5 to 8 inches. And then you could see up here in southern West Virginia, southern Virginia, out there in southeastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, and in Georgia, we could push somewhere between 1 to 5 inches. Tough to tell how far north, how far south the snow gets. Obviously, you want to be in this area where the totals are a little bit higher. There's a little bit more confidence there. I will say if we get the high end numbers through portions of North Carolina, we could see some all-time records. I know right now the high end for Charlotte is at around 15 inches. That would be an insane snowstorm for Charlotte. It's about a 10% chance of that happening, but it could. And we're seeing the possibility of 20 inches in some areas like through the Research Triangle, Greensboro, if you get your high end. So crazy, crazy, crazy snow here. Not everyone's going to see their expected snow totals. I think a lot of people will. Some people are going to see slightly under. Some people may see slightly over. So what happens after this storm moves off the coast? We continue to get a lot of cold air moving down into the southeast. You can see this continued northwesterly flow. And when you get cold air headed down there towards the western Atlantic and the Gulf, there's always the opportunity for a storm system to form along that baroclinic boundary, run up the coast, run through the Ohio Valley. Again, and I've been saying this in my live videos, I really like this region out here, at least through the first half of February, maybe through the whole month of February. We're going to have cold air diving out here. We may have a little bit of an active subtropical jet. So 1 or 2 major snowstorms could still be on the table for the Ohio Valley, maybe the Southeast, maybe the East Coast, New England, the Mid-Atlantic. Now, where do I expect the most frequent snowstorms to happen? I think we're going to get a lot of clippers up here through portions of the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. So frequency of snowstorms here. If we're going to get a big snowstorm, I think it's going to be somewhere out here. But you can see what's happening in the short range or the short to medium range here. And I think we're going to see more of this as we move through February. We could see a little bit of a thaw out as we get into mid-February, and we could potentially see a big snowstorm try to move through the Rockies towards the upper Midwest. I think we're going to get a little bit of warm air back into the east somewhere in the middle of February. But right now, most of the models just see a negative AO, a negative NAO, a positive PNA. So ridging out west, warm air out west, dry conditions out west, and cold and wet conditions out east. So snowy conditions. Pushing through this weekend, like I said, the cold air continues, some clippers through the upper Midwest. We're getting a pretty good funnel of moisture up into the Pacific Northwest here, mostly western or coastal Washington. Low elevation rain, high elevation snow. But then we get into the middle of next week and we're just dry and above average out there. But look what happens here. We get another storm system forming potentially down here in the Ohio Valley as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday. I think this may end up being a little bit more impressive than it is on the models. I think it was last video I said to watch this area. I think we may see a little bit more snow here, a more significant winter storm, maybe even some severe weather with this to the south. We're talking about 120 to 150 hours here. Let's wait a couple days, see how this progresses, but more of the same, cold air, snow out to the east, dry conditions, warm air out to the west in the 7 to 10 day forecast here. You look at the 10-day temperature anomalies from the European again, and I know I've been showing you this every video, guys, but just want to show you the cold air continues out east. The warm air continues out west. Now, in the short to medium term, how does this cold air look? Here's Friday, Saturday. Look at Saturday and Sunday. We are freezing from portions of the central to southern plains through the Ohio Valley, southeast, mid-Atlantic, New England. We could be breaking temperature records. We get into Sunday, much of the same. We get into Monday, much of the same. Maybe a little bit of warmth or average air tries to return Tuesday, Wednesday, but then we're back into very cold air. Continuous cold air out into the east. Look at this getting into next weekend. This could again be a chance for record-breaking cold air. At this point, it feels like I'm beating a dead horse. We know we're going to be cold ahead. Just want to continue to show you the updates with this cold air. Still seeing it, not seeing it slow down. If I do, I'll let you know, but the east, get ready. Taking a look at our teleconnections. Now, we look at our AO and our NAO a lot, our EPO. I wanted to look at our PNA here because I've noticed a trend. As we get towards the middle of February, this ridge wants to finally potentially give out in the west, potentially allowing some cold air, some storminess to move back into the west, into the Rockies, and maybe a setup for a big storm system or a big winter storm through the plains and up towards the Great Lakes region or the upper Midwest. You see it on the Euro. You see it on the Euro AI around the 10th, 12th. Getting into the graph cast, we see this ridge out west collapsing 8th or 9th of February. We could see it happening between the 8th, the 10th on the European weeklies, and then the GFS ensembles. We're getting out there towards the 10th, the 12th, all seeing that. So definitely agreement on that ridge giving out in the middle of February. I'm hoping the Rockies in the west can get some more moisture, some good snow out there. I know it's been a bad ski season. Again, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I try and live stream every single day and post videos like this every single day as well. I have an amazing Discord if you want to join. Tons of weather knowledge in there, tons of daily weather updates in there. It's completely free. The link is right in the description of every single one of my YouTube videos. All the maps I look at, everything I discuss, that is all thrown in the Discord every single day for you to see. And I also tell you when I'm going live, and we have just a great community to talk to in there and to answer your questions. Again, I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream.